Take your finger off that mouse and don't go anywhere. We've got Christine Papalexis today on Meet Our Mentors. Hello, Christine. Welcome to Meet Our Mentors. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Art?
I'm good. I'm good. I see you brought friends. I didn't realize we could bring our friends with us in this broadcast.
Always.
Who do you have behind you? These wonderful puppets.
Well, let's see. Over here, I have a little Pierrot balloon clown puppet that I made for myself, not for anything in particular, just because I really wanted a balloon clown. Kind of in the tradition of you know what, I'm getting dings coming in. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I just assumed they were punctuating everything that you were saying. It's a balloon clown. Ding.
So yeah, when I worked at Bob Baker Marionette Theater, it was one of my favorite numbers, and I always thought it would be fun to have my own balloon clown number. So I made my own little balloon clown. And right now, he doesn't have a balloon. He's got, when he hangs out in the living room, he's just got a little scarf, a little piece.
Does it just sound like a whoopee cushion when you blow through the tube? Then is it like you're farting balloon clown?
That's a new twist.
That's great. I like that idea better. It's the failed balloon bit. I love that. I love it. All right. And so who's the other two creatures?
Okay, and the other two are this is just a little dog. I always wanted a little dog puppet. In fact, I always wanted to make an animatronic dog puppet, but oh look, there's
look at there's with balloon.
Nice. In performance with balloon.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to make an animatronic dog puppet actually, but I just decided I would go ahead and make a little hand puppet dog in the meantime, and eventually maybe I'll get around to doing an animatronic dog, because I just wanted to have my own. You know, it's fun to have your own kind of signature puppet that you just like taking around places and stuff. Yeah, there.
Absolutely. What a shot. Oh, it's a beautiful dog. Oh,
he's really cute. He came out
perfect size too. He's gorgeous. He's
he's small and he looks good on camera.
Nice.
And then the other, this is a little witch girl that I made for it was for a live show. Actually, I was involved in a reading at Skylight Theater in Los Feliz in Los Angeles. It was for World AIDS Day. And so of course, so I made a witch puppet for World AIDS Day. Basically, there was in my writing group, we were doing a lot of writing that we do every year, and we do a reading about World AIDS Day. And but this year they decided, Michael Kearns, who's the teacher, decided that it'd be nice to have a little comic relief, because the topic can get a little heavy, you know. And so me and one of the other writers in the group, Dave, we wrote some little comedy routines, some little bits to go in between. So so that's
just
Sammy.
To lighten things up just a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so Sammy the Witch.
Excellent. Well, let me reel you all the way back to the beginning. What was like, so puppets? I mean, who the heck does that? What started you in this insane business? What was the hook for you?
Well, other than, when I was a kid, I made puppets. I made lots of things. Both my sisters and my mom all sewed. So I learned how to sew from the time I was really young. Oh yeah. And there I am with my first, I just thought, oh yeah, here's my first rod puppet. Basically.
Nice.
So, which I didn't make, but it was a great Christmas present. And I don't really wear frilly dresses as much anymore, but I still have puppets in my life.
Nice.
So
well, I'm glad you kept the one and left the other behind. Probably a good choice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, frilly dresses are not necessarily my thing. Nothing against them. That's fine. But basically, I made things when I was really young. And then when I was a teenager, of course, it was in drama. I was in, all the shows, and thought I really wanted to be an actress. And it was funny because I got a degree in sociology. And then after school, I just thought, I don't really want to go to grad school right away. I'm going to have to do something else with my life, because I just don't know. I don't want to sit around doing, statistics, and I have to do something more creative. And I got a job at Bob Baker Marionette Theater right after college. And I thought I would be there like for the Christmas season, which was like, November, December. And
So how did you land like the job? Was it just because you'd been performing and everything? You'd been already doing acting work and
well, it's funny how that happened, because I went in to interview, and Alton Wood was Bob's business partner, and partner at the time. And I went in to interview with him, and basically he talked to me for about 45 minutes, and I heard this story about how he used to be a concert pianist, and then he had a nervous breakdown and he couldn't play the piano anymore. And then he found puppets, and he and Bob really developed the theater together. And after about 45 minutes of him talking to me about his life, he said, "Well, do you want to start on Monday?" And I was like, "Okay."
did you want to ask me any questions or
Yeah, there was very little back and forth. There was, I
like
guess,
you sat there for 45 minutes. You've that's the audition. Like, are you
yeah,
willing
that
to
was
sit?
it. So, and then of course, once I got there and started, then it was like, all right, well, here's a bunch of puppets. These are really the beginner ones, and there's a mirror. So just, have at it. And there was very little training involved. I just really had to, I mean, I would grab people and say, "Please, what do I do? What am I doing with this? How do I do this?" And so that's kind of how I learned. It was kind of on the job training. So
What was the caliber of performer like at the theater? Were they always rotating in, or was there a core group that was?
there was a core group at that time, and there were some really amazing marionettists. In fact, Frank Paris, who, I don't know if you have heard of him, but he was one of the first marionettists that ever did like cabaret style. I'm not sure whether he was the first. I think he said he was the first. I'm not sure if he was the first or Bob was, or I don't know. I wasn't there. But basically he would perform marionettes, out on stage, and he'd be like in a tuxedo and stuff. Of course, when I was working there, he was much older and was kind of towards the end of his life, but he was a brilliant marionette builder. If you ever have a chance to see any of his work, it's absolutely incredible. So he was there building. Roy Raymond had been there forever, and King Hall was it's just so okay. So when I first started working there, I met Bob. I met all these characters, all these people, and I was a little green, to be honest. I mean, I'd been in theater, but not like this version of theater. And I kept hearing about King Hall, who was this guy who was, he was helping Bob design the shows. He had his own TV show for many years called The Fruzels. And they said, "Oh, just wait till you meet King, because he's, he does all this stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, great." So
you're hearing about this legend, and you're like, when am I going to meet this guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So after about 3 days, the door opens, and this very tall, skinny man walks in with like 3 days beard growth, very bloodshot eyes, full leather regalia, like leather chaps, a leather hat, leather vest. I mean, it was like this total leather.
You're like, "You must be the king."
Yeah. And he walks in, he's like, "Hi, I'm King Hall." And I'm like, "Hi," and I'm thinking, this is like, children's theater. It was just a world I hadn't really been around very much, and so that kind of started me on my journey, was being there. And King was terrific. I mean, he also was the host of the show, and he was a real natural performer. But yeah, so he was great. And then Lee Mosier, who is one of my dear friends, he used to do the balloon clown. I used to like sneak out to watch him do it because I just loved it. It would like bring tears to my eyes every time. So the people that were there it was kind of a ragtag bunch. There was Earl Montgomery, who worked in the shop, who claimed he was an Indian. He was Cherokee, and he was like this stunt performer. It was just like this big lunk of a guy. And I'm like, "What are you doing here? I don't know what you even do here." But it was just this great cast of characters. And but I was a little lost. And then I asked my friend Michael Hameson, who was working there, and I said, "Can we just go to lunch, and find out what am I doing here?" And so we went to lunch, and he became one of my best friends, like all through the 80s. This is like early 80s, and he became one of my best friends. And in fact, I learned so much about building puppets and walk around characters. Yeah, there's Michael. And so he was really, actually, other than teachers I had along the way, he was really like my mentor, I would say, because he's the one that we would make puppets together. We would spend hours into the night, making puppets. And
And
that
so
was,
he was already really in the scene, and he's like, all right, well, if you want to get into
yeah,
this, come along with
he,
me. I'm going to show you the ropes.
yeah. So he kind of let me know what was going on at Bob Baker Marionette Theater, and it was really good to have that connection, because otherwise I don't know that I would have lasted. I stayed for like 3.5 years. And
Wow.
Michael had worked with Bob Brown in Washington D.C. and also was in Ballet Trocadero. So he'd had this whole other life before moving to Los Angeles, and was just really he was just really instrumental. He was the one that told me, it's like, no matter what puppet is, whatever puppet you're building, you got to put a little, yeah, there's Michael on the right. You got to put a little sparkle, a little, either a rhinestone or a sequin or something in the eye, so that it catches the light, and that's what brings it to life. And it was just kind of that kind of magic that really kind of brought it all together for me, and I just kind of fell in love with puppets. And
so it sounds like you were both falling in love with the design and building aspect and the performance aspect kind of at the same time. Were you doing both at Bob Baker, or were you mainly a performer?
I was helping mostly with costumes at Bob Baker's, but oh yeah, there's some of the puppets that Michael made when he was at Bob Brown. And I've never talked to Bob Brown about it, but I actually have some of Michael's photos. He died of AIDS in 1990, so I ended up with some of his puppets, and some good memories.
Yeah.
So I ended up working there for like 3.5 years. From just the Christmas season, I just kind of stayed. It's like,
and this was in the early 80s then? Is that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you leave, you leave Bob Baker, and where do you go from there?
Well, it was funny because I still was thinking I didn't know what to do with my life when I was at Bob's. And then Len Levitt, who was another puppeteer who went to UCLA with Greg Bellora, and he said to me one day, I said, I just don't know what I'm doing. And he said, well, you could be a puppeteer. And I thought, oh, I didn't know there was a career choice.
A thing?
It's like, really? Can I do that? Oh, okay. So then after working at Bob Baker's, then I worked, I think from there I went to the Queen Mary and did live shows there for a couple of years. So I did
like cabaret style stuff for adults.
No, we actually had a stage, sort of a little stage built that we were inside of, with kind of like an opening, like a window kind of opening. And then there were 2 actor dancers that would dance in front of it and sing about ice cream. And then, because it was sponsored by Dreyer's ice cream, of course. So, and then we would have these ice cream puppets, and Salty Dog, who was he's kind of like the mascot of the Queen Mary. And so we did I did my amusement park stint for quite a while. And that's when I first did a commercial, was for the Queen Mary. And I thought, oh, this is really fun. It was fun doing something on film. So.
It's so different, isn't it? I mean, we just shot a video for a band in San Francisco out at Images in Motion, and it's like I primarily do kid shows, and so I'm out in schools and libraries, and the whole routine. It's such a different environment to be working with, a DP and a director and lighting people, and it's like you're working with adults who know what they're doing, right? And it's so different. So So the first commercial was for Queen Mary.
It was for the Queen Mary, yeah. And it was just a tag. It was like Salty Dog and Sir Winston was the bulldog, of course. And it was just like a little tag that they kind of bumped into each other at the end of the commercial. It was like, oh, this is really fun. I always thought it would be fun to work, in movies and TV, but didn't quite know how to get there. Even though I grew up in Los Angeles, my family wasn't involved. I didn't quite know how to get there, you know.
And so did that turn into other work then? Just the little
So then,
commercial or?
yeah, after that, well, and then I continued doing shows at the Queen Mary. Then we Trey and I, who was my partner at the time, we were my performing partner. We wrote a show together. Well, he mostly wrote it. I built the puppets with Michael. We kind of did this whole like, hey, I got a barn. Let's build some puppets. So we did we did a show, and this time we got to do. There was this beautiful stage, you know, in the lower deck of called the Royal Theater. I think it was the Royal Theater. So we did a show there with a much bigger set, and there was a pelican that had like kind of cable controls and stuff. It was you know, it was a whole nother level for us doing that. So
Fun, nice. Good. So then where do you go from there?
Well, from there I was working. Let's see. I was working with my friend Julian, and he was working with a friend of his. They were working on a movie. It was a Corman film. I think it was produced by Julie Corman. So if you don't know, the Cormans are like the kind of the lowest of the barrel of producing. Well, I mean, they've done some great films, but they did the original. Anyway, Roger Corman is well known as a producer in Hollywood. They gave a lot of people their start.
What is it like? Is it B movies? Is that what they're called?
Yeah,
yeah.
C or D movie. I mean, they're really kind of so really low budget, but a lot of people got their start there. I mean, the original Little Shop of Horrors, it was black and white and wasn't a musical. That was a Corman film. And anyway, so I worked on this Corman film, which was called The Nest. And it was basically this huge, big cockroach kind of thing that had many controls. We had these huge, big controllers and with cables, and you'd have to like kind of like pull them really hard to get anything to move. And the cockroach, this cockroach thing is like it would eat a human, and then a face would end up being a part of the cockroach, but it didn't move very well because it was just so big and cumbersome. So the director really had to work hard to make it look scary. And then we were in Bronson Cave, which is where they shot the Batman TV show and a lot of things. Bronson Caves is well known, you know, kind of fake cave in Hollywood. And we had these egg sacs hanging from the ceiling of the cave, and we'd have to run in and put more slime and more blood so that it would be dripping during the action, you know. So every time it would end, we'd go, more blood, more slime. Oh my God, you found the poster. Yeah.
That is a classic Corman poster right there. There it is.
Yeah.
And so was that, I mean, there's such a, like, there a lot of film and TV work with puppets is more not bringing necessarily a character to life like you would say your dog puppet or something, but giving you know, an inanimate object life. What did you, I mean, how is there a different approach to that as a puppeteer? Or?
Well, I mean, I think the main difference is that it's sort of like an ensemble performance rather than an individual or solo performance. One of my favorite things I worked on was Alien Resurrection, which I don't think I sent you any photos of. I'm sorry, but you can watch it. Alien Resurrection. It was the fourth in the Alien series, and we built. And I was working in the shop. It was called ADI, Amalgamated Dynamics Incorporated, which is a mouthful. And we were working in the shop with like 70 people building. We built this baby alien. It was the first time any of the aliens ever had a face. And then also the mama alien, which is kind of the classic with the big giant head, you know. And so we had these two on set. And oh yeah, there's the poster. So we had these two big, huge monsters on set, and there was a while there where I mostly worked on the mama alien. But there's this amazing scene where the two of them are kind of fighting, because basically the mama gives birth to the baby, and there's this huge big egg sac, and then the baby comes bursting through the egg sac, turns around to its mama, takes his big arm and whacks her head off. So, and then this green splurt of blood goes flying. It was so dramatic. It was really fun to shoot. It was
How long did it take to shoot that, and how many puppeteers were on all of the various?
we had, I think we had 40 to 45 puppeteers on the call
Wow.
sheet for that.
Wow.
And and this was before, CGI was so prevalent. So, and we were still shooting stuff in Los Angeles, because after Alien Resurrection, the next one they did was Alien versus Predator, which was many years later. But we did a lot of the same building of stuff, and then they took the whole thing to Prague, and with only 6 puppeteers, and they shot with puppeteers from Czech Republic, because there's great puppeteers there, and it's certainly a lot cheaper for the
Sure.
producers. So yeah, that was kind of the writing on the wall. It's like, oh, I'm not going to be doing a lot more movies here, I can tell. So, but yeah, that was fun, and I got to do the mom's lower jaw. So I would make growly noises and stuff, and it became like an ensemble, because if you're doing those kinds of movements, you have to kind of like, everybody has to coordinate together. So
Is there,
making,
I know on like tabletop or Bunraku, there's, whoever's on the head is sort of like the lead, not like, but and everyone else sort of supports that. Is it similar in film, that there's someone who is like the lead, or like, because you've got to have some sort of codifying factor, right?
to some degree, yeah. And these puppets were hydraulic. They were huge hydraulic
Wow.
puppets. And then the part that I did was, I think it was animatronic. I think it was remote control. And then when I worked on the baby, I worked on her arm, and she had a big long rod arm with cable controlled fingers, but her head and her neck movement was all done by one person that had control. And it's amazing, because it's like 8-foot long head, and the control is just like this little thing that was just sitting there on the table, and he would just move it a little bit, and the thing would just move like crazy. So
how long would you get to work with these puppets before shoot day? Or would it be like, all right, here we go, good luck, and like what's
we didn't get to rehearse a whole lot, which is why it helped on set, making noises, and everybody kind of, sometimes we would count, it was sort of kind of to be able to coordinate these things together. Yeah, there's the baby. It was the newborn. It's called
That's the baby right there.
That's
Jeez.
the baby. Yeah.
Nice.
The first time I had a face.
Face that only a mother could love.
Yeah, exactly. And then die.
And then die. I love you. You killed me,
baby. So yeah, that was a really fun time. I think we worked on the whole project overall about almost a year, I think, between working in the shop, taking things to set, shooting, and then and then going back and prepping more stuff, and then shooting again. So I worked at ADI for about 8 years,
both building and performing.
Yeah.
Was that sort of a hook to be able to get to perform, is to be in on the build?
Yeah, and it still is to some degree. Although there's not as much work as there used to be. So, you can work in a shop and not get to puppeteer at all. I think I was kind of in a golden age, kind of in the 90s and 2000s, where there was actually, I worked on one movie after another, and I worked on Alien Resurrection and My Favorite Martian and The Shaggy Dog, with James Cromwell, not the movie. It was a made for TV movie. So
yeah,
which was so much fun. That was amazing. It was all really fun. So, but yeah, I got really lucky, because I got to work on so many films for quite a long time.
That's fantastic. And was it CGI, or just going out outside of Los Angeles, or what do you think?
It was definitely CGI that really shifted things.
Yeah.
Do
you think we're going to see a return back to, because I know some of the Star Wars series, they're doing a lot more practical stuff. The latest movies, they did a lot more practical, at least set work and everything. Yeah. And do you think we'll go back a little bit, or?
I think it has to some degree. Like on Mandalorian, that was such a wonderful surprise, because no one knew about baby Grogu until it, it happened. It was on everybody's TV, and they're like, "Oh my God, the baby, the baby!" It was very exciting,
And
and
talk
that
about a
was
beautiful puppet and just
oh,
so well manipulated too. My
yeah,
goodness. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know some of the people that work on that. They're at Legacy Effects, and they also do. Legacy does a lot of the effects in town. For some reason, they used to be Stan Winston Studios, and then when Stan passed away, four of the guys that worked there, basically bought the company and kind of kept it going. So a lot of and they always had very, very high standards, and I think budgets to go with it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of projects don't have that kind of budget. So, but yeah, I think CGI has made a huge difference, and there are puppets. And then Bobby, I don't know if you've watched Sweet Tooth, but Bobby is this beautiful little puppet that, just look up Bobby
Okay.
in Sweet Tooth. And there's some video too about how they do it, because it's basically one person with working the feet, and he's got this funny little shuffle, because there's hybrid characters in Sweet Tooth that are sort of children but part animal, and because it's this whole the world has gone awry, and post apocalyptic nightmare. But there's a company in town, Fractured Effects, and they've done a lot of stuff. They did a lot of the makeups for Sweet Tooth, and they built Bobby. I'm not sure that they still are built. That was at least in season 1. It's just the first time it came out on screen, I was just like, "Oh my God, is that?" And I couldn't tell at first if it was CGI or a puppet.
That's
And
the
it's
best,
just
isn't it?
it's
I just love
beautiful.
that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful puppet. It's a really sweet character. And so, yes, it exists. And there's a whole lot more people in town that want to do it and are doing amazing work with it. And there he is. There's Bobby.
I have seen that puppet. Yeah, that puppet is incredible.
It's gorgeous. It's really an achievement in puppetry, I think.
And they're getting so much better at keying out. I mean, like, green screen is still a thing, but it's becoming maybe even less of a thing now that the technology
Yeah.
has moved forward. It's so easy to
Yeah.
mask out everything that you don't want there, and so you can get like, look at how close these folks are to the puppet. That's incredible, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neat. You worked on Kidding a little bit too, right? That was a
I
fantastic.
did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so much fun. I had such a great time. It was I did the character. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the characters.
I've got it here. I can help you out. Let's see. Kidding.
The,
Viva Las Pages.
yes, Viva Las Pages.
What a great name.
So good. So good. No, I didn't do the first time that you see Viva Las Pages. That was Dorian. That wasn't me. But I got to do her later on, because Dorian also did other parts as well. And so yeah, that show was amazing. If you have a chance to watch
I haven't watched the final, or the is it the final season or the latest season? I haven't
think
had a chance.
I think they did 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah. I don't think I finished the second season, but the first season had me, Carrie's performance and the puppetry, and and just it was so close to when Fred Rogers had passed away as well, so it was just all of this sort of interesting. It was just topical and interesting, and well performed for sure. It was really loads of fun.
Yeah.
Is Viva Las Pages in there, or is that?
Yeah, on the bottom, the pink with the gray hair on
with the glasses and the
glasses. So they said 4. She's like old 4 eyes, and people used to call you 4 eyes when you wear glasses. So she had 4 lenses.
Nice.
And she was such a nice little puppet. Swazo built all those puppets, and they just did a beautiful job. They're so easy to work, and just really great characters, and
it's so great when puppeteers build puppets, right? I mean, like that it moves really, really well, because they know it needs to, and that the performance will
metal sometimes.
Yeah, and 400 pounds. Yeah. Hey, if you've got any questions for Christine, or you just want to say hi, you can just go ahead and type that into the chat on Facebook or in YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. There she is. Look at that. That is a lovely puppet.
She's really sweet puppet.
Yeah. Neat.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your movie. So, puppeteer on lots of other people's projects. I glanced at your resume. My goodness, you like Men in Black 2 and on and on and on. You've done a lot of work, and so you got to do your own. Was this your first film? Please say it for me.
Amaterasu.
Amaterasu, and
Yeah.
that's a Japanese. Was it a Japanese folk tale? Is
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah. I built two marionette shows, live shows in the 90s so that I could do them for, they were just what I wanted to do. They were not really for kids necessarily. And it took like five puppeteers to, yeah, there's the poster. It took like five puppeteers to actually do the whole show. So it
For the
wasn't.
live show? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
for the
cheap.
live show. Yeah, no. So it was not like a money maker. It was just like, this is my art. This is what I want to
Yeah,
do. And
yeah.
so I did these two live shows, and I always wanted to do, well, both of them, but I thought particularly Amaterasu would be a great film because she's the sun goddess of Japan, and in their mythology, and she's a very strong female character, and so I wanted to tell her story, and I just thought, and I've been doing artwork with found objects for many years, and I've done some collage work as well. And but I decided that this was so that so my live shows are both made out of all found object marionettes. The other one is called The Witch's Egg, and it's about and I think I sent a picture of the witch. She's got a skull for a head, and big scissors for her or forks for her hands, and yeah, there she is. That's
Look
the
at that.
witch that's in The
Wow.
Witch's Egg. And I really wanted, we've heard so many stories for so long, mythology and history and everything else, and it's generally always from the viewpoint of of men's stories about what happened. And I just feel really strongly that it's like, women have always been here as well, and they also have been doing things, and it would be great to hear the women's side of things and see what women have been doing, and strong women, all women. And so anyway, I really like that in Japanese culture that they consider the sun to be a female deity rather than a male one, because in most cultures you always hear about the sun being a male
Right.
power.
Right.
So
Can we take a look at just the beginning of the
yeah,
film?
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can share it here. So this is from say it for me again.
Amaterasu.
Thank you. And let's see if I can. Here we go.
In the beginning times, the spirit of all living things was called Kami. Animals, fish, and flowers had Kami in all shapes and colors. The Kami of the mountain was lavender and long. The Kami of the trees was great and green. The Kami of the rivers were silent and calm. All the strength of these Kami poured forth from the great mother sun, Amaterasu Omikami. Amaterasu is blessed with great beauty and burdened with self-love. Yet all the other gods and goddesses loved her. Amaterasu had a brother named Susanoo.
That is just so I could just spend the rest of our time watching the movie. I watched it, like I told you, I watched it this afternoon, and when the curtain parted, it was so lush and there was so much depth, and the light, who did the lighting for this? I mean, the lighting was a character all its own throughout this entire film. Like who,
Yeah.
what? So
Yeah.
tell me about the creative
Yeah.
process.
Alex Griffin was my DP, and he's just kind of a genius with lighting. I mean, he's also a great still photographer, and so I knew that I wanted him to shoot it. And he also, I mean, since this was my first time, yeah, there we are. That was in Sedona. It was just before, it was February of 2020.
Oh,
where
nice. And then the
film,
world shut down.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was the last film festival. It's the last outing before, the world shut down. And he's just kind of a genius with lighting and how to shoot things. And he has a much more background in how to shoot things. So he actually basically was an advisor as well, because I would be like, I'm not quite sure how to do this, but this is what I want to do. And he would have, oh, okay, well, we can do this and this and this. And
this is such a good example of, like, I noticed, like, there were lens flares at just the right times, just to enhance, not to destroy. I mean, it was, oh God, it was beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was funny because I really liked the lens flares. And he's like, usually we try and get rid of lens flares, but they kind of work. And it's funny, in this shot in particular, you see on the left where there's the lights, the kind of dappled lighting.
Yeah.
He said to me, he said, I really want this one kind of light. I think it's like $60, but I think it'll be really nice. And I'm like, okay, whatever, spending so much money anyway. Let's,
so blow the budget.
He just had this wonderful, way of knowing just what was going to be the right thing. So I really relied on it. He also edited it. So,
wow.
And then I had, Adrian Provost, who is a brilliant composer, and he composed it. And this is definitely a situation where it's great to have talented friends, because I had Adrian Rose Leonard, Kristen Charney.
Yeah, the who's who of puppeteers.
Yeah,
Robin Walsh. Yeah.
Rachel, this is early when Rachel Burson first came to town, and she came on and was a PA. Kelvin Cow, who was on the board of the guild, and he was the IT guy. It was just like, it's like all these friends. It's nice to have talented friends that are willing to help you do your thing. So, and I got a grant from Heather Henson's company, from their foundation, fortunately, because it's costs a lot of money to make a film.
I bet. And this one was, I mean, I was imagining, we've got a question from David here. He said, can you spend some time talking about found object puppetry? I've always been curious. You can read it there. So I was looking at all of the stuff, and either you're like a hoarder and you have like just closets full, or you just raided every single garage sale ever. I mean, like, how did you, like, that was a lot of stuff, and it was the perfect stuff too. So, I mean, that's...
Yeah. Thanks. It's a little of both. I have a lot of stuff, and I collected a lot of stuff, because when I did the shows back in the 90s, it was all very small. And then the proscenium that you saw in the beginning of the film, that was my actual stage that I used for there it is. That
gives us a sense of scale there. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so everything was very small. I mean, Susanoo is only about, yay big. He's really tiny. And Amaterasu originally was just the light and the crystals. And then my friend Sherry, who also is sort of a mentor in a way, because I've worked with her I've known her for many years, and always really admired her work. And then I have actually gotten to work with her on something. She's not a puppeteer, but she's she's a wonderful artist. Anyway, so I divulge. So so basically when you're doing found object, at least when I'm doing found object, I don't know if the word works for everybody, but I have to have a lot of stuff. And sometimes you don't even have, even though you have lots of stuff, you don't have the right stuff. And you put things together and then suddenly it's like, oh, there it is. It just kind of revealed itself. But I needed big things. And I went to, there's different junkyards and places that have lots of stuff. There was one place I found like in Vernon that had lots of car parts. And so the mountain in the background in that landscape, that's part of a car. And then I used a lot of metal screen to kind of put things together and give it that texture. So on the set pieces, I used metal screen on the bottom that I staple gun together and then put all the objects there with it. But yeah, it's all kind of trial and error. It's like, I think I need a little forest here, let's put all these little candlesticks and okay, should they all be brass? I don't know. Maybe there's a silver one in there. And then these, so it really is it's a real trial and error kind of experience.
So this god is I don't know what the head is, but the body is like one of those change dispensers, isn't it? Is that what it is? Yeah. And then that great butter knife or whatever kind of knife that is.
It's a blade.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And so you don't come up with a drawing and then try to find things to match it.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. Interesting.
No. Yeah, I don't think I suppose you could try that, but it kind of, I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that kind of lend themselves, like a round shape, lends itself better to a head mate, but not always. I mean, it really is. When you're doing found object stuff, you really have to it's just trial and error. Yeah. You got to have a lot of stuff and then you have a place to work. Oh, and there you can see the scale.
There's Calvin and Kristen.
Yeah, there's Calvin and Kristen. This is the night view and the moon in the background. Because basically in the story, Amaterasu gets really pissed off and then goes off to her cave and says, I'm done, I'm out of here. And then all the people are starting to die because the crops wither. Without the sun there can be no life. So they have to get her to come back out. So the moon, this is like the moonscape, and the moon actually was a hubcap that was in that car, the car junkyard.
Really?
And it was just like, oh my God, this is it. This is the moon. It's perfect. It was kind of bashed in. And you can see the scale because basically I had flats that were like 2 by 4 feet. And I had 6 of them and then one big long one in the back. So it actually was a pretty sizable set. I mean, not in terms of human scale, but in terms
of depth too. I mean, and that really comes through in the film. You really get a sense that it feels like it goes on forever. I mean, it really is well shot and well put together in that way. So you had puppeteers below and above and all over the place here.
Yeah, this is when they were resetting the kami because if you notice in the film, it looks like it comes out and kind of flows. And I had it all set up on my deck in the backyard. And my friend Allison came over and, another brilliant puppeteer who's a good friend too, who was Cherry in Pee Wee's Playhouse. She's amazing. And anyway, she came over and helped me kind of figure out what do we do? We put monofilament on and pull it, or string or twine, or, we kept trying to pull things, but because of the screen and the nature of metal that just wants to grab onto things,
snag and everything,
pulling things out just didn't work. So then someone had the great idea of shooting in reverse. So we pulled everything so that it would disappear. And then when you reverse it, it looks like it's coming out.
It looks amazing. I mean, it took a few seconds for me to go I'm looking for string. I'm looking for monofilament. And I'm like, I wonder if they, yeah.
That's funny. At all the film festivals, people were like, how did you do that? It was so amazing. And it does, things in reverse have a different, somehow it just feels different,
It feels more ethereal because it's not quite working as it should, but you can't usually tell why.
Exactly. Yeah. So then
Yeah.
we had to reset the commie between each take. So that's why, so we thought, all right, cut. And then all of a sudden, all these, these people would pop up in between the set pieces and reset the commie. And yeah, and then we had a scaffolding for, because marionettes, you have to work above them. And we also, at one point, for Amaterasu, when she during that sunrise and she rises up there, fortunately, there was a pulley up on the ceiling of the studio we were in, so we could kind of like pull it up
And just
and
rig it
again,
from there.
yeah. And again with marionettes especially, it was so wonderful to have people that were really friends that really knew how to build puppets as well as puppeteer, because they could also kind of like figure out how to
Re-rig
do
something, or
yeah
yeah.
and restring and all that stuff.
So how difficult was it? I mean, so you have your first film festival in February 2020. How difficult was it to get this film out when the
That
pandemic
was
hit?
that wasn't the first one. The first one was in well, I shot the film in 2016. We completed it 2017 and started going to film festivals 2018. So it, you know what, I applied to so many film festivals, and I guess like 10 to 15% is supposed to be a good number, but it just felt like people just didn't want to show it, because it was really discouraging in the beginning. And then when I actually looked at it and someone told me that, it's like, well, you've got more than 10%. That's really great. I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds really good. And every time I would go to a film festival with the people, the reaction was always just really terrific. But I think because it's puppetry, there's usually not a category in film festivals. They have animation, they have experimental films, documentaries, but nothing really for puppetry. So I generally would submit under animation.
And did it get grouped with? I know Heather's grouped several films together, and it's gone out as a thing. Did it get grouped with that as well for IBEX, or?
Yeah, it's been with Handmade Puppet Dreams groupings, and I think it's still, it's on Amazon Prime. I just checked recently to see if it was still up there. So it's on Amazon Prime also, with a lot of the other Handmade Puppet Dreams films, which are so wonderful. It's such a great bunch of films. If you have Amazon Prime, it's definitely worth watching the films, because it's just a great collection of real variety of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've covered your career in detail, and we've mentioned a few of the mentors along the way, but like are there people that have influenced you, people that have really been like official mentors to you? How do you feel like, and who and why have they affected your career?
I think really going back to my Bob Baker days, I mean, of course, Bob was always an inspiration because of what he built, from the time he was a little kid, and did his first, marionette show. Oh, and there's Bob and Alton. That was a long time ago. He would, and he built this incredible theater, and it was just such a magical place to walk in. I mean, I went there when I was a little kid. I think that was partly why it was so much fun to actually, work there as an adult. But I didn't really work directly with Bob.
Sorry, that's me.
No, actually, that's me. But
yeah, that's you. That's you via me.
I did the narration as well in the film. So I think that Bob truly was a real inspiration, because wow. I mean, look at what he did. He built this incredible theater that has entertained thousands and thousands of children, and the art that has gone into what he has created is just, it's just incredible. So, I mean, I think Bob always was, an inspiration, but I think really my mentor, if I say mentor, I think really Michael, my friend Michael, who I met at Bob Baker's, he was really the one that's like, well, let's do this. This is how you do soft sculpture, and let's do this. And this is how we make a puppet. And then actually, I mean, I also have learned a lot from Greg Bellora. He's a brilliant puppet builder. And
well, I mean, his brain is just like the way he does mechanisms, and he's he's so generous with it as well. It's ridiculous. And every time I've ever talked to him about puppet stuff, he's never talked down to me. He's always assumed that I am as good as or know as much as he does, and I so don't. But it's such a generous way to share, right? I mean, it's so
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's one of the things I love about working with him is he's a real tinkerer. It's like when he's not building a puppet for something particular, he'll just tinker with things and figure out he figured out this great way to make puppet rods. It's so more efficient and so fun rather than having a little square, and now he's doing a lot of stuff with 3D printers. He's getting a new one. And we do these commercials together. We've done them for 5 years, Mr. World. And Mr. World sells eyeglasses for Eyeglass World, although he actually has no eyes.
Yeah, perfect.
But his head is a globe. And and every year we're so lucky we get to do these series of commercials. Tobin Seymour is the director, and also he's kind of the person that oversees the puppet building, although he's not usually there in the shop very much. Is mostly me and Greg and Kristen Charney and Allison Mork. And sometimes Shanna Blaney, who is Tim Blaney's wife. She's also a great puppet builder. She worked for Tony Urbano for many years. So she's got some pretty awesome puppet building chops.
I bet.
Yeah. So, we've built these puppets for years, and every year it's like, okay, well, let's see, how can we improve on this and how can we make a better palette? And Paul McGinnis is the lead puppeteer on it. He does the head and the body, and it's mostly all tabletop. There are hand puppets as well, but it's mostly tabletop. And I'm the shortest, of course, so I do the feet.
Yep.
And I love doing feet, and especially working with Paul is fun because it's so his forte, is doing that tabletop style of puppet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's an incredible puppeteer. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a real honor to get to work with them. And then Greg does the arms.
Nice.
Paul is a good dude.
Yeah, agreed. Well, good. We're coming to the end. Is there anyone else that needs to be mentioned?
Philip Huber. I knew I was going to say someone else. Philip Huber. I got to work with. So on the right is Philip Huber. I worked on this show. It was called Cosmic Fling, which also was a handmade puppet dream film, and I built Beatrice, who is there's Beatrice, and then Stan is the character that it's hard to see, but that's the one that Philip is working there. And it's basically they're in outer space, and it's a love story. And so I built Beatrice, and I'd never built like a wooden marionette from start to finish. And It was really, really fun. It was challenging, of course, but it was really fun. There's a picture somewhere. I think I sent it along, but anyway. And then I also got to work with Philip when I went to the O'Neill in 2014, and I did the marionette strand, which is when I brought my balloon clown, and I thought, I have an act, but I'll see what I can do. And with Philip, it was just like I got to actually create an act that was kind of beyond what the usual balloon clown does. And I would like one of the little tips he said to me. Oh yeah, there's Beatrice. That's the marionette that I did. One of the tips that he said is like, I've always hated balloon clowns when the balloon is up in the air, but it doesn't actually look like it's, carrying.
Yeah.
It's actually, that's what is actually carrying that puppet in the air. I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant, and I hadn't put that now it seems obvious, but at the time I'm like, yes, help me do this, So Philip is fantastic. And then also, getting to work with him on Cosmic Fling was really an honor. And then Sherry, there was a photo of her for just a moment. She did,
Is she with Lily Tomlin there? Is that who she's with? Okay.
Yeah. She's, So, my friend Sherry, I've known for over 30 years, but I knew who she was before I met her. She was a performance artist, and she's just so creative in terms of how she puts something together and thinks about things in a way that you don't normally, you don't necessarily think about them. It's really, really kind of outside the box thinking. That sounds so stupid, but she kind of think, and one of the things I've always loved about her and her work is that she always, it's like content is really important to, you know, the message of what it is that she's doing. And she's always, her work is beautiful, but it's also very feminist. It's very talking about, again, it's going back to, you know, women's experiences and women's stories. And she, so on the right is some of her artwork. And then on the left, she's doing right now, and I've gotten to work on a couple films with her, which has been really, really fun. And early on, I did some performance art with her as well. I did puppets and, you know, part of, yeah, it was really, we did some funny stuff. We did the Annunciation where she's playing Mary, and I'm like coming in as the angel telling her that she's pregnant, because I don't know if you with the Annunciation, there's a whole lot of artwork where there's like a flower, and the angel comes in to say, hey, you're pregnant. And and so I was like coming in, and I would come in with like a turkey baster and come in with something else, and it was very, very funny, although we got booed actually. But
oh, really?
and then we did another film called Gloria's Call, and Gloria is the short red-haired woman in the middle. And it was a documentary about her and her experiences. And she's Claudia Ornstein's mother. I don't know if you know who Claudia is. But, Claudia is, she's a brilliant puppet historian, and she's been involved with P of A in the past. And anyway, so Gloria had all these amazing stories about her life. And we did some animation to help tell the story. So that was another film that we worked on. It was called Gloria's Call, and we actually went to a lot of film festivals with that. But the other thing that Sherry's working on now, she was involved with the Women's Building, which was a center for feminist women's art in the 70s and 80s. And now she's making a documentary about that era, about the performance art and all the things that the creativity that was going on at that time.
Wow.
So, yeah. So yeah, she's definitely been somebody that I've always looked up to, and then I also get to be good friends with her, so that's really special.
Nice. So we got to wrap up here soon, but what is next for you? What's on the docket?
A little house cleaning, because there's a strike happening. I don't know if you've heard.
I have heard. I think if puppeteers could get into reality TV, they might be doing really well for the next couple of months or so, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always projects that I want to work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, once the puppet that I'm currently working on, once that's done, I don't actually have any work for money. Although I've done a series of, this is the funniest thing. I got hired to work on Barbie TikTok videos. So if you go to TikTok and go to Barbie, you'll see these little, and you'll see there's stop motion Barbie, and then there's puppeteered Barbie. And the ones that are puppeteered, it's like, it's me with this Barbie, just like, I have to like not even breathe, because if you move just
it's so tiny.
So tiny. It's the tiniest movements. And but the scripts are really fun. They're really short and adorable. And Bill Watterson, who's a brilliant director, he did Dave Made a Maze, and he's been directing these, and that's been really fun. So hopefully there'll be more of those.
Good.
You know,
well,
thanks. You always
nice.
hope more work shows up, and it usually does. So.
Good Lord. I don't know how you do it, man. That's tough. That's tough. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you all for watching us. I really appreciate it. We're going to take a break during the summer, because we will be at the National Puppetry Festival in Washington, D.C., and also performing our butts off all summer long. So we hope to see you back here in the fall for more episodes of Meet Our Mentors. Once again, Christine, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see y'all later. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.